It's here!
Jeez, don't scare me like that. What's got your drawers in a twist?
Lords of Midnight, it's out!
Yeah, right. Next you're gonna tell me Phantasmagoria's been released. So how is it?
Well, I'm very confused. I thought it was a role-playing game, but it's actually a strategy game.
Fancy that.
As such, it belongs in the same category as games like XCOM and Jagged Alliance, although it's not quite up to the same level of quality as those products.
That's a shame.
Lords does have a great background environment. The Blood March, where the game is set, is populated with interesting characters and settings. The game is so extensive, in fact, that it features an online bestiary and traveler's guide.
Cool.
At the outset of the game, a lord from the neighboring land of Midnight, Luxor the Moon Prince, has been captured by the evil, nasty, rotten Boroth Wolfheart, who demands tribute to finance his play for world domination.
The quest to rescue him is what the game's about, I understand.
Right. You start out controlling 4 groups of Luxor's allies. Morkin, Luxor's heir, who starts out at home in Corley with a small army. Rorthron, the Wise, an ally of Luxor's, a couple of Luxor's fellow prisoners who have escaped and are wandering free inside the Wolfheart Citadel, and Araleth the White, who also starts in Corley with an army.
So what exactly do you do in this game?
You've got to recruit other characters, then transfer troops from their castles to your army. Ultimately, you must build up your forces until you can challenge the might of Wolfheart's garrison of 10,000 at Marinor, his dark citadel.
How do you deal with characters who won't join you?
You pretty much beat them up and take control of their fortresses. You can also send your characters out to hunt for artifacts, which once equipped will make them a force to be reckoned with. Also, the rescue party inside Marinor periodically frees a hostage, who can then return home and take charge of the army they control. Where this begins to fall short is in the direction control of the characters. You must control them directly from time to time. This is the only way to dismount a dragon, for example. You must also pass through this screen to get to the place where you'll be spending most of your time, the Let Time Run On screen.
Ooh, pretty.
Yeah, the graphics in Lords really need to be SVGA. A game this text-heavy should display information using attractive, legible fonts, and Lords doesn't. I suspect this decision was based on the low horsepower of the average consumer machine in the UK market, and the fact that it would be difficult to make the real-time 3D engine work in high res. Personally, I would just assume they had dumped the 3D in favor of improving the still parts of the game.
Based on the attractiveness of the interface in general, it's clear that their artists are pretty talented. Since most of the pages are stills anyway, the designers probably should have just stuck with still screens and let their artists really cut loose.
That is one thing I really liked about Lords.
What, the interface?
Yeah, the book metaphor is really cool, and the notion of characters having their own pages is brilliant.
Web surfers should easily be able to relate.
Common, consistently used icons and flyover help should make it very easy for new players to get used to navigating the interface. There are a couple of places that needed some tweaking, but, surprise! Just before press time, Domark released a patch to add a few new features. This catalog screen used to be in random order and featured only characters' portraits. Trying to recruit someone when you didn't know what they looked like was a process of panning across hundreds of character portraits looking for the right name. By adding character crests and grouping the portraits into heroes, villains, neutrals, and dead, you've at least got a fighting chance. Ironically, what Lords of Midnight needs to be a great game is to drop the 3D animated real-time control of characters and add more role-playing elements.
Excuse me? Baking powder?
Controlling a character directly is extremely difficult, and while you're doing it, time flies by at a disproportionate pace. An hour can pass while a character in Marinor walks the length of one corridor.
And more role-playing?
When you try to recruit another character, you simply get a message saying so-and-so is about to recruit some other dude. After that, you get another message saying you did it, or now you done gone and kicked over the hornet's nest. What's worse, if you jump in and control the character directly, you get a very limited set of choices, none of which improves much on letting them handle it automatically. What I'd like to see is a more realistically scripted conversation, preferably one you have some control over, and the outcome of which affects the other character's decision to join you.
Kinda like, hey, I hear Boroth Wolfheart killed your whole family. Let's gang up and go kick his ass.
Yeah, like that.
Isn't this actually the third Lords of Midnight game?
Yeah, the first 2 were published for an obscure computer system back when 16K of RAM was a hot system.
Too bad no one in the American market will ever have seen those first 2.
Ah, but wait, they've kindly included ports of the first 2 games on the CD, so you can.
Cool.
Yeah, despite their dated appearances, including those games was really a nice touch.
So Lords of Midnight has great potential.
But it never quite realizes it. It's got a great story and setting with terrific characters, but it worries too much about letting you get in and drive them around the 3D fractal landscape when that's really not the most fun part of the game. I'd like to see the next Midnight title finally admit that it's a strategy game, dress up the interface with SVGA and legible fonts, and add more character interaction elements. As it is, Lords is kind of fun, but you are definitely left with the feeling that the game could have been much, much more.